Welcome to Sleep with Stories, where we invite you to slow down, breathe deeply, and ease gently into sleep after a long day. Here, every tale is a door to another time, another rhythm, and tonight's story opens into a world wrapped in velvet. Silence and gaslight dot. What if you awoke in a time not your own? To the scent of coal smoke, the weight of a corset, and the hush of distant carriage wheels on cobblestone. In this quiet crossing between centuries, we meet Philippa Albright, whose consciousness gently slips into the graceful but constrained life of Winifred Cavendish, a woman shaped by the elegance and expectations of Cranbrook Hall. Tonight's journey isn't marked by drama or danger, but by the deep, slow unraveling of a forgotten routine, morning rituals steeped in steam and lavender, silent maids moving like shadows, and a life where every gesture is measured, every moment steeped in tradition. This is not just a visit to the past. It is an immersion into a different kind of stillness, a life lived by candlelight and careful restraint. So settle in. Let your breath match the quiet rhythm of another era, and allow this gentle story to guide you softly toward rest. A peculiar stillness often accompanies the gentlest of transitions, a soft, unhurried shift across time's vast expanse. One might wake to the muted light filtering through heavy drapes, the faint scent of coal smoke mingling with polished wood, and an immediate, profound sense of displacement. The very air feels thicker, laden with history, and the quiet rhythm of a world long past begins its subtle assertion. It was into such an existence that Philippa Albright, 38, found her consciousness gently settled within the slender frame of Winifred Cavendish, 26, in the hushed, gaslit confines of Cranbrook Hall. The rigid structure of the gored corset, a firm embrace around Winifred's waist, became Philippa's first physical encounter with the era's relentless demands, a constant reminder of boundaries both seen and unseen. The morning rituals unfolded with an almost ceremonial precision, a delicate dance of domestication. Winifred's days were a meticulously woven tapestry of routine. The household ledger, a weighty tome of precise script, dictated her hours, detailing every expenditure and social obligation for Cranbrook Hall. There were the hushed discussions with the housekeeper, the polite yet firm instructions to the cook, and the quiet supervision of a world operating entirely by gaslight and the measured cadence of horse-drawn carriages on the distant cobblestones of Regent's Walk. A brief, chaperoned excursion along Regent's Walk offered a glimpse of the wider world, a public sphere where every glance, every gesture was a performance. Under the ever-present societal gaze, the absence of modern conveniences was not a void, but a quiet acceptance of a different pace, a life where written letters were the fastest communication, and a woman's sphere of influence remained largely within her domestic walls. There was a quiet reconciliation with this pervasive lack of personal autonomy, a deep understanding of a life not chosen, but inhabited with grace. If you found this quiet reflection soothing, please consider liking and subscribing. The quiet assertion of the past deepened with each passing day, unfolding a meticulous tapestry of existence where every thread was spun from tradition and expectation. Winifred's life, now observed through Philippa's contemporary lens, was a masterclass in structured serenity, a world where the rhythm of the household dictated the very pulse of being. After the delicate ballet of awakening and corsetry, the morning continued its deliberate unfurling. The washing ritual was not the swift, automated affair of a modern bathroom, but a sequence of measured movements. A housemaid, quiet as a shadow, would bring pitchers of warmed water, steaming gently, to the washstand in Winifred's dressing room. The basin, a pristine porcelain bowl adorned with delicate floral patterns, received the water, its warmth a brief, comforting presence against the cool morning air. Philippa observed the careful dipping of a flannel cloth, The gentle cleansing of the face and hands, the absence of a vigorous shower or the cascade of hot water from a tap. The soaps were simple, often scented with lavender or rose, and the process itself felt less like a utilitarian necessity and more like a quiet moment of preparation. A cleansing not just of the skin, but of the day's potential impurities. Hair, thick and brown, would then be brushed with long, even strokes, its length carefully pinned up by the maid, forming the demure, intricate coiffure expected of a lady. There were no quick blow-dries, no styling products beyond a touch of brilliantine for shine. It was a patient, almost meditative process. The mirror reflecting a woman composed and poised, ready to meet the demands of her station. Dressing, too, was an art of layering, a deliberate construction of appearance. Beneath the elegant gowns, the gored corset was but one layer in a symphony of undergarments, chemises of fine linen, voluminous petticoats that rustled softly with every movement, and then the dress itself. Fabrics were heavy, wools for warmth, silks for elegance, cottons for everyday wear, often adorned with intricate lace, ribbons, or embroidery. The sheer weight of the attire was a constant, subtle pressure, a physical manifestation of the societal expectations that clothed Winifred's very being. Buttons, hooks, and laces were meticulously fastened, often with the assistance of the maid, creating a silhouette that spoke of propriety and refinement. Shoes, typically sturdy leather boots for walking or delicate slippers for indoor wear, completed the ensemble, each item chosen not for personal comfort or preference, but for its adherence to the unspoken rules of fashion and decorum of 1860. Philippa felt the gentle weight of the skirts, the slight constraint of the sleeves, a perpetual reminder that even the simplest act of dressing was a commitment to a prescribed role. Breakfast in Cranbrook Hall was a quiet, almost ceremonial affair, typically taken in the smaller, less formal dining parlor. The table, polished to a deep sheen, would be set with heavy silverware and crisp linen. Food was substantial: eggs, often bacon or ham, toast, preserves, and strong tea. There was little conversation beyond polite pleasantries, a stark contrast to the lively, informal mornings Philippa had known in her own time. The master of the house, if present, would peruse the morning papers, his presence a silent anchor to the day's proceedings. Winifred, seated demurely, would pour the tea, her movements precise and graceful, embodying the quiet efficiency expected of a mistress of the house. The meal was a fueling, a preparation for the day's duties, rather than a social gathering. Following breakfast, the true machinery of household management whirred into motion. Beyond the household ledger, which Philippa now understood to be not merely an accounting book, but a daily diary of domestic governance, there were countless tasks. Winifred would descend to the housekeeper's room, a less grand but equally important space to discuss the day's menus, the progress of laundry, the state of the household stores. Every loaf of bread, every pound of sugar, every fresh vegetable entering the kitchen was accounted for. Inventory was a perpetual process, checking the linen closets for worn sheets, examining the china for chips, ensuring the silver was polished to a gleaming brilliance. The household was a small kingdom, and Winifred its meticulous sovereign, ensuring its smooth and efficient operation. Interaction with the staff was a finely tuned dance of authority and respect. The butler, Mr. Hawthorne, a man of quiet dignity, an unwavering loyalty, oversaw the male staff, the footman, the coachman, the stable boy. Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, managed the maids, the cook, and the scullery maid. Winifred's instructions were clear, concise, and always delivered with a calm, even tone. There were no outbursts, no emotional displays, only the quiet, firm directive. Philippa observed how problems, when they arose, a leaking pipe in the scullery, a minor dispute among the kitchen staff, a shortage of candles, were handled with a methodical calmness. Solutions were sought through established channels, resources allocated, and tasks delegated with a quiet confidence that spoke of years of training and ingrained understanding of her responsibilities. Planning meals for the family, and more. Crucially, for any expected guests, was a delicate balance of seasonality, dietary preferences, and social standing. A dinner party, even a small one, required days of meticulous preparation, from menu selection to table settings, from wine pairings to the precise timing of each course. The concept of personal autonomy, so fundamental to Philippa's modern sensibilities, continued to manifest as a profound absence in Winifred's existence. Her life was not a series of choices, but a tapestry of duties, expectations, and adherence to established norms. Financial independence was a distant dream for most women of this era. Winifred's sphere of influence, though significant within Cranbrook Hall, did not extend to the world of commerce or independent financial decisions. Her identity was inextricably linked to her husband's social standing and the smooth running of his household. Professional outlets for women were virtually non-existent, confined mostly to teaching, governess roles, or very limited forms of domestic service for those of lesser means. The concept of a woman pursuing a career for personal fulfillment was radical, almost unthinkable. The fragility of reputation was a pervasive, unspoken law that governed every action. A single misstep, an injudicious remark, or an unchaperoned encounter could cast a shadow over a woman's entire social standing, impacting not just herself, but her entire family. Decorum was not merely good manners. It was a shield, a protective veneer against a judgmental society. Philippa observed the unspoken rules of polite society, the careful avoidance of controversial topics in conversation, the nuanced language used to convey disapproval without overt confrontation, the importance of maintaining an outward composure of grace and serenity, regardless of inner turmoil. The public self was paramount, meticulously curated and presented, while the private self remained largely unexpressed, confined to the quiet corners of the mind or the pages of a personal diary, if one dared to keep such a thing. The absence of modern conveniences continued to paint the landscape of daily life with strokes of measured slowness. Gaslight, while an improvement over candles, offered a warm, flickering glow that barely dispelled the deeper shadows of Cranbrook halls. Vast rooms. Each fixture had to be lit individually, the soft hiss of gas preceding the gentle pop of ignition. The light was sufficient for reading or quiet conversation in the evenings, but it cast a different kind of warmth, a dimmer, more intimate ambiance than the stark, bright clarity of electric illumination. Its maintenance required careful attention. The gas lines themselves, a network beneath the city, their supply and pressure influencing the quality of light. Communication, beyond direct speech within the home, remained a thoughtful, deliberate act. Letter writing was an art form. Philippa observed Winifred's patient hand moving across fine paper, forming elegant script with an ink pen. The careful selection of paper, the precise wording of greetings and closings, the sealing wax melted and pressed with a personal stamp. Each step was part of a ritual. Letters were then carried by foot or carriage to the nearest post office, and their journey across London or to distant parts of the country could take hours, if not days. There was no instant message, no immediate response. The anticipation of a reply, the slow unfolding of news, lent a different weight to every communication, making each received letter a significant event. Transportation was equally measured. Horse-drawn carriages, whether the family's private brougham or hired hansom cab, navigated the cobblestone streets of London. The pace was dictated by the horses, the traffic, and the condition of the roads. journeys that might take minutes in a modern automobile stretched into a deliberate excursion, providing time for quiet observation of the bustling city life outside the carriage window. Planning a visit across town required considering not just the destination, but the travel time, the weather, and the availability of the coachman and horses. The very act of movement was slower, more contemplative, woven into the fabric of the day's scheduled events. Heating within Cranbrook Hall was a constant battle against the pervasive damp and chill of a London winter. Fireplaces in each principal room were tended daily, coal scuttles replenished, and the smoky scent of burning fuel permeated the air. Despite the roaring fires, certain rooms remained stubbornly cool, a constant reminder of the physical limitations of the era. A bath was not a daily indulgence, but a weekly ritual, involving the arduous task of heating large quantities of water in the kitchen, carrying it in heavy pails up several flights of stairs, and pouring it into a large, freestanding tub. The privacy of the dressing room provided a secluded space for this elaborate undertaking, the warm water a fleeting luxury. Medical care was a landscape of stark differences. Doctors were called to the home for significant ailments, their treatments, often involving leeches, purges, or various concoctions of tinctures and powders. The understanding of germ theory was decades away, making hygiene practices often rudimentary by modern standards. Minor complaints were handled with an array of home remedies, herbal teas, poultices, quiet rest. Philippa observed the stoicism with which ailments were born, a quiet acceptance of discomfort, a reliance on traditional methods that often felt more like comfort than cure. The fragility of life, particularly for women during childbirth, and the prevalence of childhood diseases underscored a deeper, more fundamental difference in the relationship with mortality. Education for women, as Philippa perceived it through Winifred's daily engagements, was primarily focused on accomplishments designed to make a woman a desirable wife and competent mistress of a household. Lessons in drawing, watercolors, and music, particularly piano and singing, filled the late mornings. Languages, such as French or German, were often studied for their cultural refinement rather than for practical application in a professional sphere. There were no university degrees for women, no careers in law or medicine. The purpose of education was not intellectual emancipation, but the cultivation of virtues and skills that would ensure domestic harmony and social grace. Philippa mused on the quiet tragedy of brilliant minds confined to the narrow corridors of domesticity, their potential for broader contributions largely untapped. Marriage was the central pillar of a Victorian woman's existence, the ultimate goal and defining moment. It was rarely, if ever, about romantic love as understood by Philippa's era, but about alliance, social standing, and financial security. Woman's identity shifted irrevocably upon marriage, becoming intrinsically linked to her husband's name and status. Within the marriage, expectations were clear. The wife was to manage the household, bear children, and provide a tranquil, well-ordered haven for her husband. Domestic harmony was paramount, a silent contract observed by both parties. Motherhood, when it came, was a complex and often physically demanding experience. For women of Winifred's station, wet nurses were common, alleviating the physical burden of nursing but also creating an emotional distance. Nurseries, often located on the upper floors of the house, were the domain of nannies and governesses who largely oversaw the children's daily care and education. Parenting was strict, focused on discipline, moral instruction, and preparing children for their future roles in society. The tender, open displays of affection common in modern families were less frequent, replaced by a more formal, structured relationship between parent and child. The weight of these societal expectations, from early education through marriage and motherhood, formed a continuous, unyielding framework around Winifred's life. a silent testament to the era's pervasive norms. Leisure and entertainment, too, operated within defined boundaries. Reading was encouraged, but the choice of literature was carefully monitored, leaning towards improving moral tracts, poetry, and approved novels. Philippa often found Winifred engrossed in volumes of Tennyson or collections of botanical illustrations. Needlework, such as embroidery or knitting, filled many an afternoon hour, producing delicate samplers or practical garments. Drawing and playing the piano provided quiet, artistic outlets, often performed for the amusement of family members or close friends rather than a public audience. Public entertainments were limited and always chaperoned. Visits to the National Gallery, concerts at St. James's Hall, or a performance at the Royal Opera House were rare, special occasions meticulously planned and executed, always under the watchful eye of a companion or family member. The pace of life, even in leisure, was slow, deliberate, and imbued with a sense of purposeful engagement rather than fleeting amusement. Philippa, the modern consciousness, found herself in a state of quiet, perpetual observation. There was no sense of panic, no frantic struggle against her circumstances, but rather a deep, almost academic curiosity. She absorbed the details, the nuances, the unspoken rules, allowing the Victorian world to seep into her very being. Her own perception of time began to shift, slowing to the measured rhythm of horse-drawn carriages and handwritten letters. The immediacy of her former life faded, replaced by an appreciation for the deliberate, structured predictability of this new existence. There was a peculiar beauty in the meticulousness, in the dedication to detail that permeated every aspect of Victorian life, even as Philippa recognized the profound restrictions it imposed. The constant hum of a world without instantaneity, without constant digital connection, fostered a different kind of awareness, a deeper engagement with the present moment and its tangible realities. She found herself noticing the play of gaslight, unpolished wood, the faint scent of beeswax and lavender, the subtle rustle of heavy fabrics, sounds and sensations that had been lost in the cacophony of her previous existence. It was a silent journey into the heart of a bygone era, an adaptation not born of struggle, but of a quiet, profound acceptance, an unfolding understanding of resilience in the face of absolute difference. The days flowed into weeks, and the weeks into months, each one reiterating the patterns, reinforcing the subtle yet pervasive constraints. Philippa observed how the seasons brought their own specific demands and routines, the spring cleaning rituals, the summer exodus to the countryside for some families, though Cranbrook Hall often remained a constant, steadfast presence in London, the preparations for the social season, and the quieter, more inward focus of winter. She learned the rhythms of the city beyond the walls of Cranbrook Hall, discerning the various street cries of vendors, the specific bells of churches marking the hours, the changing sounds of traffic on Regent's Walk as the day progressed. The presence of servants, though a constant, became almost invisible in its seamless integration into the household, their movements practiced, their duties understood. Philippa found herself not merely observing, but experiencing the world through Winifred's senses, a peculiar dual existence where modern understanding grappled with historical reality. The quiet resilience required was not a dramatic feat, but a continuous, gentle yielding to a world that demanded quiet conformity, finding small pockets of internal freedom within its meticulously defined boundaries. This internal landscape, ever shifting, ever adapting, became Philippa's true domain, a space where reflection deepened with each turn of the day. As dusk began its slow descent, painting the London sky with hues of bruised purple and soft orange, the gaslights within Cranbrook Hall would flicker to life, casting long, dancing shadows. The sounds of the city softened, replaced by the distant, rumble of carriages, and the occasional chime of a clock. Winifred's evenings, after the duties of the day, were often spent in quiet pursuits, perhaps a book by the fire, or a gentle conversation with her husband, if he was present, over a cup of tea. The very air seemed to settle, becoming denser, more contemplative. The transition from day to night was not abrupt, but a slow, deliberate fade, mirroring the gentle pace of life itself. The concept of free time, as Philippa knew it, was non-existent. Every moment was either dedicated to duty or to appropriate, refined leisure. Yet, within this structured existence, there was a peculiar peace, a predictable tranquility. The absence of frantic deadlines, of constant digital alerts, of the relentless pursuit of more, allowed for a deeper engagement with the immediate environment, with the simple act of being. Philippa found herself marveling at the quiet hum of the gas lamps, the soft glow on the pages of a book, the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. It was a world of tangible details, of textures and scents and sounds that spoke. Of a bygone era, a world into which she had been so gently, yet irrevocably immersed. The question remained, what subtle shifts would this prolonged immersion continue to carve into the very essence of her modern consciousness, as the Victorian pattern settled ever more deeply into the fabric of her being? Winifred's life now, observed through the contemporary lens of Philippa Albright, a woman of 38 years, was a masterclass in structured serenity, a world where the rhythm of the household dictated the very pulse of being. The initial disorientation, once a subtle thrum beneath the surface of her new reality, had receded into a distant echo, like a forgotten melody. Philippa no longer sought frantic explanations or longed for a sudden return. Instead, a profound acceptance had taken root, an understanding that this existence, this quiet, structured rhythm of Victorian life, was now her present. Her modern consciousness, once a stark contrast, had begun to intricately weave itself into the fabric of Winifred's being, creating a new, singular experience. She found herself anticipating the morning light, not with a desire for swift progress, but with a quiet readiness for the day's familiar unfolding. The demands of Cranbrook Hall, the nuances of social calls, the very scent of the coal fires had become less foreign impositions and more integral parts of a deeply lived reality. The intricacies of household management, initially a labyrinth of archaic practices, had become second nature. Philippa could now discern, with Winifred's ingrained expertise, the subtle signs of a worn linen, the faint tarnish on a piece of silver, or the precise amount of sugar required for the week's preserves. Her discussions with Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, were no longer exercises in observation, but active participations in the smooth functioning of their shared domain. The household ledger, once a symbol of rigid accounting, transformed into a chronicle of her days, a testament to her quiet competence within this defined sphere. Each entry, meticulously penned, represented a small victory of order over chaos, a gentle assertion of control within a world where broader autonomy remained. Elusive, the societal expectations, once felt as heavy chains, now seemed to possess a curious grace. The meticulousness of dressing, the formal etiquette of conversation, the very act of maintaining an unblemished reputation were no longer merely rules to be followed, but became a form of art, a ballet of propriety performed with quiet dignity. Philippa understood through Winifred that these constraints were also a shield, a means of navigating a complex social landscape with honor and respect. The delicate dance of social calls, where every gesture and word held subtle meaning, transformed from a daunting performance into a predictable, almost comforting ritual. The quiet strolls through Regent's Walk, always accompanied, always observed, became moments of gentle contemplation, where the murmurs of the city, the rustle of leaves, and the distant clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages provided a tranquil backdrop to her internal reflections. The absence of instantaneous communication and rapid travel, initially a source of quiet frustration, had become a profound lesson in patience and presence. Letters, once mere messages, were now cherished. Artifacts, their arrival a significant event, their contents savored over slow, deliberate readings. The journey by carriage, once an inconvenience, was an opportunity to observe the world outside Cranbrook Hall, to appreciate the varied faces of London, the vibrant, if sometimes grimy, tapestry of urban life. The gaslight, no longer merely dim, cast a comforting, intimate glow, inviting quiet introspection rather than demanding constant engagement. It was a world that encouraged slowness, deliberation, and a deep appreciation for the tangible, for the present moment. Philippa's contemplation of education, marriage, and motherhood had evolved beyond a critical assessment of limitations. She now perceived the quiet dignity in Winifred's approach to these fundamental pillars of Victorian life. The accomplishments, once seen as mere superficialities, now revealed themselves as skills that fostered quiet intellectual engagement and artistic expression within the permitted confines. Marriage, though not a union of modern romantic ideals, was a partnership of profound shared responsibility, a foundation upon which a household and a legacy were built. Motherhood, with its formal structure and reliance on household staff, was not devoid of love, but expressed through a different idiom, one of diligent preparation, moral guidance, and a quiet, watchful care for the children's future. The pervasive moral compass of the era, the quiet currents of piety and modesty, had also ceased to be an object of detached observation and had begun to shape Philippa's own internal landscape. Sunday routines, with their solemn visits to St. Paul's Cathedral, and quiet afternoons of reflection, provided a sense of grounding and purpose that was different from anything she had known. Charitable endeavors, often undertaken quietly and without fanfare, instilled a sense of communal responsibility. The importance of reputation, once a source of anxiety, now resonated as a fundamental component of social cohesion, a silent agreement that held the fabric of society together. As the quiet journey through the past continued, Philippa's modern consciousness was not erased, but subtly resculpted. The frantic pace of her previous life, the constant clamor for external stimulation, had faded, replaced by an inner stillness. She found a peculiar kind of liberation in the lack of choice, a quiet peace in the structured predictability. The internal resilience required was not a struggle against her circumstances, but a gentle, continuous adaptation, a softening of rigid expectations, and an embracing of a different form of existence. She discovered that even within the tightest confines, there was space for quiet reflection, for internal growth, for a profound and tranquil connection to the rhythm of a bygone world. The days continued to fold into weeks, then months, each passing moment deepening the immersion. Philippa's sleep grew deeper, more profound, undisturbed by the anxieties of a world she had left behind. Her dreams, when they came, were filled with the soft rustle of silk, scent of lavender and coal smoke, the quiet tick of a grandfather clock, and the gentle clip-clop of horse hooves on cobblestones. The line between observer and participant had blurred, and the consciousness of Philippa Albright and the existence of Winifred Cavendish had merged into a singular, tranquil presence. The vast chasm of time, once so stark, had been quietly, gently bridged, not through a dramatic reversal, but through a profound and peaceful assimilation. There was no more longing for a different time, no striving against the inevitable. Only the quiet, structured reality of 1860, unfolding with its measured pace, its subtle beauty and its deep, undeniable peace, inviting a perpetual, gentle descent into rest. The world outside Cranbrook Hall continued its measured hum, and Within its walls, a quiet, profound understanding settled, undisturbed, like dust motes dancing in the soft glow of gaslight. The initial disorientation, once a subtle thrum beneath the surface of her new reality, had receded into a distant echo, like a forgotten melody. Philippa no longer sought frantic explanations or longed for a sudden return. Instead, a profound acceptance had taken root, an understanding that this existence, this quiet, structured rhythm of Victorian life, was now her present. Her modern consciousness, once a stark contrast, had begun to intricately weave itself into the fabric of Winifred's being, creating a new, singular experience. She found herself anticipating the morning light, not with a desire for swift progress, but with a quiet readiness for the day's familiar unfolding. The demands of Cranbrook Hall, the nuances of social calls, the very scent of the coal fires had become less foreign impositions and more integral parts of a deeply lived reality. The intricacies of household management, initially a labyrinth of archaic practices, had become second nature. Philippa could now discern, with Winifred's ingrained expertise, the subtle signs of a worn linen, the faint tarnish on a piece of silver, or the precise amount of sugar required for the week's preserves. Her discussions with Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, were no longer exercises in observation, but active participations in the smooth functioning of their shared domain. The household ledger, once a symbol of rigid accounting, transformed into a chronicle of her days, a testament to her quiet competence within this defined sphere. Each entry, meticulously penned, represented a small victory of order over chaos, a gentle assertion of control within a world where broader autonomy remained. Elusive, the societal expectations once felt as heavy chains now seemed to possess a curious grace. The meticulousness of dressing, the formal etiquette of conversation, the very act of maintaining an unblemished reputation were no longer merely rules to be followed, but became a form of art, a ballet of propriety performed with quiet dignity. Philippa understood through Winifred that these constraints were also a shield, a means of navigating a complex social landscape with honor and respect. The delicate dance of social calls, where every gesture and word held subtle meaning, transformed from a daunting performance into a predictable, almost comforting ritual. The quiet strolls through Regent's Walk, always accompanied, always observed, became moments of gentle contemplation, where the murmurs of the city, the rustle of leaves, and the distant clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages provided a tranquil backdrop to her internal reflections. The absence of instantaneous communication and rapid travel, initially a source of quiet frustration, had become a profound lesson in patience and presence. Letters, once mere messages, were now cherished. Artifacts, their arrival a significant event, their content savored over slow, deliberate readings. The journey by carriage, once an inconvenience, was an opportunity to observe the world outside Cranbrook Hall, to appreciate the varied faces of London, the vibrant, if sometimes grimy, tapestry of urban life. The gaslight, no longer merely dim, cast a comforting, intimate glow, inviting quiet introspection rather than demanding constant engagement. It was a world that encouraged slowness, deliberation, and a deep appreciation for the tangible, for the present moment. Philippa's contemplation of education, marriage, and motherhood had evolved beyond a critical assessment of limitations. She now perceived the quiet dignity in Winifred's approach to these fundamental pillars of Victorian life. The accomplishments, once seen as mere superficialities, now revealed themselves as skills that fostered quiet intellectual engagement and artistic expression within the permitted confines. Marriage, though not a union of modern romantic ideals, was a partnership of profound shared responsibility, a foundation upon which a household and a legacy were built. Motherhood, with its formal structure and reliance on household staff, was not devoid of love, but expressed through a different idiom, one of diligent preparation, moral guidance, and a quiet, watchful care for the children's future. The pervasive moral compass of the era, the quiet currents of piety and modesty, had also ceased to be an object of detached observation and had begun to shape Philippa's own internal landscape. Sunday routines with their solemn visits to St. Paul's Cathedral and quiet afternoons of reflection provided a sense of grounding and purpose that was different from anything she had known. Charitable endeavors, often undertaken quietly and without fanfare, instilled a sense of communal responsibility. The importance of reputation, once a source of anxiety, now resonated as a fundamental component of social cohesion, a silent agreement that held the fabric of society together. As the quiet journey through the past continued, Philippa's modern consciousness was not erased, but subtly resculpted. The frantic pace of her previous life, the constant clamor for external stimulation, had faded, replaced by an inner stillness. She found a peculiar kind of liberation in the lack of choice, a quiet peace in the structured predictability. The internal resilience required was not a struggle against her circumstances, but a gentle, continuous adaptation, a softening of rigid expectations, and an embracing of a different form of existence. She discovered that even within the tightest confines, there was space for quiet reflection, for internal growth, for a profound and tranquil connection to the rhythm of a bygone world. The days continued to fold into weeks, then months, each passing moment deepening the immersion. Philippa's sleep grew deeper, more profound, undisturbed by the anxieties of a world she had left behind. Her dreams, when they came, were filled with the soft rustle of silk, the scent of lavender and coal smoke, the quiet tick of a grandfather clock, and the gentle clip-clop of horse hooves on cobblestones. The line between observer and participant had blurred, and the consciousness of Philippa and the existence of Winifred had merged into a singular, tranquil presence. The vast chasm of time, once so stark, had been quietly, gently bridged, not through a dramatic reversal, but through a profound and peaceful assimilation. There was no more longing for a different time, no striving against the inevitable. Only the quiet, structured reality of 1860 unfolding with its measured pace, its subtle beauty and its deep, undeniable peace, inviting a perpetual, gentle descent into rest. The world outside Cranbrook Hall continued its measured hum, and within its walls, a quiet, profound understanding settled, undisturbed, like dust motes dancing in the soft glow of gaslight. The arrival of the morning papers, delivered with the quiet efficiency of the house staff, brought the external world into Cranbrook Hall in a measured, deliberate trickle. Winifred would peruse the headlines over breakfast, often silently, absorbing the news of Parliament, distant skirmishes, or societal gossip. Philippa observed the stark difference in information dissemination. No 24-hour news cycles, no endless scrolling. The world arrived in crisp, printed sheets, its events filtered through the editor's hand, offering a singular, often opinionated perspective. Discussions arising from the news were always decorous, never heated, reflecting the era's emphasis. Uncontrolled expression, even in an intellectual discourse. The very act of reading the news became another quiet ritual, a window into a slower-paced world of information. The formal tea ritual, a cornerstone of the Victorian afternoon, was a particular delight for Philippa and its quiet elegance. Served typically in the drawing room, a space designed for refined conversation and social display, it was a moment of structured respite. The delicate porcelain teacups, often hand-painted with intricate designs, would clink softly against their saucers. The silver teapot, gleaming under the gaslight, poured steaming Darjeeling or Earl Grey, a tray of delicate sandwiches, thin slices of bread with cucumber or cress, and small, intricately decorated cakes would accompany the tea. The conversation, if guests were present, would drift gently from polite inquiries about health to discussions of recent concerts or forthcoming social engagements. There was an unspoken art to the pauses, the inflections, the carefully chosen words, creating an atmosphere of cultivated calm. Philippa found herself appreciating the deliberate pace, the absence of urgency, and the quiet pleasure derived from these simple, refined moments. It was a tangible manifestation of the era's commitment to beauty in the everyday, a small pocket of grace amidst the broader constraints. Even the household supplies, their acquisition and storage, spoke volumes of the era. Philippa noted the vast pantry, meticulously organized with rows of preserves, barrels of flour, and sacks of sugar. The regular visits from tradesmen, the butcher, the baker, the greengrocer, were part of a well-oiled machine. Winifred would inspect the quality of the goods, a quiet nod of approval or a subtle furrow of the brow communicating her satisfaction or disapproval. There was no hurried trip to a bustling supermarket, no endless aisles of packaged goods. Everything was fresh, often delivered directly, and required immediate, meticulous storage. The scale of the provisions, catering not just to the family, but to the extensive staff, was a testament to the self-contained nature of the large Victorian household. It was a small, self-sustaining economy, and Winifred, in her quiet way, was its discerning procurement officer. The public gardens and parks, particularly those accessible from Regent's Walk, offered a different kind of regulated freedom. A stroll through Kensington Gardens or Hyde Park, always accompanied by a companion or a trusted maid, was not a casual outing but a deliberate promenade. The paths were well maintained, lined with carefully cultivated flower beds and majestic trees. Women, adorned in their elaborate day dresses and bonnets, would walk with a measured pace, acknowledging acquaintances with subtle nods and demure smiles. Children, often accompanied by their nannies, played under watchful eyes. Philippa observed the quiet spectacle of society on display, a living tableau of propriety and status. The fresh air, the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, offered a sensory contrast to the enclosed spaces of Cranbrook Hall, yet even here, the unspoken rules of decorum held sway. It was a peaceful engagement with nature, but one still, deeply intertwined with societal observation and expectation. Charitable work for a woman of Winifred's station was not a choice but an expected duty, a quiet demonstration of moral uprightness and social responsibility. Philippa would often find Winifred dedicating a portion of her afternoon to correspondence with various benevolent societies or preparing small parcels of food or clothing for distribution to the less fortunate. These acts were performed without fanfare, a quiet, almost inherent part of her week. There was no public praise sought, no social media accolades. The reward was an internal one, a quiet satisfaction in fulfilling one's duty to society and to God. It was a profound difference from modern philanthropy, which often sought visibility and measurable impact. Here, it was a silent, personal commitment, deeply rooted in the moral fabric of the time. The sounds of London itself became a subtle background score to Philippa's days. The clip-clop of horse hooves on cobblestones was omnipresent, a rhythmic pulse to the city's life. The distant cries of street vendors hawking their wares, fresh lavender or watercress, would drift in through open windows on warmer days. The ringing of church bells marked the hours, a constant, solemn reminder of the passage of time. In the evenings, the gentle strumming of a piano from a neighboring house, or the faint sound of carriage wheels on a distant street, created an auditory tapestry of quiet urban existence. There was an organic quality to these sounds, unfiltered by the pervasive white noise of modern electronics, allowing a deeper connection to the living, breathing city. Philippa found herself listening more intently, discovering a richness in the ambient sounds that had been lost in the clamor of her previous life. The very concept of privacy, as understood by Philippa's modern self, was a nuanced, almost elusive notion in 1860, while Cranbrook Hall offered private spaces like Winifred's dressing room or her personal writing desk. True solitude, unobserved and uncommented upon, was rare. Servants moved through the house with quiet efficiency, their presence a constant, if often unseen, backdrop. Even personal thoughts, if expressed, were usually confined to a diary or a trusted, intimate conversation. The public self was so paramount that the private self became a carefully guarded inner sanctum. Philippa reflected on the constant performance of one's role, the subtle suppression of personal desires in favor of societal expectations. Yet within this framework, there was a profound interiority, a rich inner life cultivated in the quiet. Spaces of the mind, a place where genuine autonomy could still quietly reside. The limited opportunities for independent intellectual pursuits for women were another quiet observation for Philippa. While Winifred had a modest library filled with classics, poetry, and improving tracts, and engaged in gentle discussions of current affairs, there was no access to the burgeoning scientific discoveries or philosophical debates that occupied male minds of the era. The very act of formal study, beyond accomplishments, was considered unladylike, even detrimental to a woman's delicate constitution. Philippa mused on the vast ocean of knowledge that remained largely inaccessible, the quiet frustration of intellectual curiosity subtly curbed by societal norms. Yet she also observed how Winifred found quiet intellectual satisfaction in the careful management of her household, the meticulous organization of her life, and the gentle cultivation of her domestic sphere. It was a different kind of intelligence, perhaps, but a profound and demanding one nonetheless. The changing seasons brought a gentle cadence to life within Cranbrook Hall. Spring meant the quiet airing of rooms, the removal of heavy winter drapes, and the arrival of fresh flowers for the drawing room. Summer, though London remained a busy hub, brought lighter fabrics, longer daylight hours, and the occasional brief excursion to a country estate for some of society's elite. Autumn saw the preparation for the colder months, the lighting of fires earlier in the day, and the harvesting of seasonal produce for the kitchens. Winter was a time of deeper introspection, of cozy evenings by the fire, of quiet gatherings, and the anticipation of the festive season. Each season carried its own specific duties and delights, weaving a predictable, comforting rhythm into the fabric of the year. Philippa, through Winifred's experience, felt herself becoming attuned to these natural cycles, her modern impatience for instant gratification gently soothed by the unhurried flow of the Victorian year. The presence of children within Cranbrook Hall, if any, would have been a structured, supervised affair. The nurseries, typically on the upper floors, were the domain of nannies and governesses. Childhood, too, was a time of preparation for one's eventual role in society, with strict lessons in deportment, manners, and moral instruction. Philippa observed the formal interactions between parents and children, a quiet reverence replacing the casual intimacy common in her own time. Affection was expressed through provision, guidance, and a watchful eye, rather than overt physical displays. Even play was often structured with educational toys and carefully supervised outings. It was a world where childhood was a serious business, a quiet molding of future adults, and the tender, vulnerable core of the child was often shielded behind layers of formality. The quiet resilience Philippa felt was not born of hardship or overt struggle, but from the continuous, gentle surrender to a world that was fundamentally different. There were no dramatic conflicts, no heroic battles to be won. Instead, it was a daily act of quiet adaptation, a softening of the modern mind's ingrained expectations, a profound acceptance of limitations. She learned to find beauty in the prescribed, freedom in the routine, and a deep sense of presence in the absence of constant distraction. The modern self, with its emphasis on individual choice and boundless possibility, slowly, quietly, yielded to the Victorian self with its emphasis on duty, community, and structured existence. This was the quietest revolution of all, an internal alchemy where two distinct realities merged into a single flowing stream. The very air in Cranbrook Hall seemed imbued with this quiet history, a scent of polished wood, old books, and faintly burning coal. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall, every intricate pattern on the wallpaper spoke of generations past, of lives lived within these very confines. The house itself was a silent, steadfast companion, bearing witness to the unhurried unfolding of Winifred's days, and now Philippa's quiet immersion. The subtle creaks of the floorboards, the soft whispers of drafts, the gentle sounds of the household settling down for the night, all contributed to an atmosphere of deep, enduring tranquility. The quiet, almost imperceptible passage of time within this Victorian existence began to alter Philippa's understanding of time itself. No longer a frantic race against the clock or a commodity to be optimized, time became a gentle, expansive medium. Hours stretched into unhurried contemplation, days into a predictable sequence of cherished rituals. The concept of efficiency, so central to her modern life, seemed almost irrelevant here, replaced by a reverence for thoroughness, for grace, for the unhurried completion of tasks. It was a world where life was lived in moments, each one savored, each one imbued with quiet significance. The absence of a constant awareness of global events or future anxieties allowed for a deeper dwelling in the present, a profound engagement with the tangible realities of her immediate environment. Philippa often found herself contemplating the vast, unspoken narratives of other women in 1860, the quiet lives of the housemaids, the cooks, the governesses, each bound by their own set of expectations and duties. Their world, too, was meticulously structured, their roles vital to the smooth functioning of a household like Cranbrook Hall. Their personal aspirations, their inner lives, remained largely unseen, part of the quiet, unseen machinery of Victorian society. This broader observation of interconnected lives, all operating within an intricate web of social convention, added another layer to Philippa's understanding, deepening her quiet empathy for the human condition across time. The concept of beauty, too, had shifted for Philippa, no longer just in grand gestures or striking individualism, but in the subtle elegance of a perfectly placed teacup, the precise folds of a lady's skirt, the quiet dignity of a well-run household. It was a beauty born of order, of restraint, of a dedication to aesthetic harmony that permeated even the most mundane aspects of life. The meticulous gardens of Regent's Walk, the intricate lace on Winifred's gowns, the polished gleam of silverware, all spoke of a world that valued meticulous craftsmanship and enduring grace. This appreciation for a different kind of beauty settled gently into Philippa's soul, softening her modern eye to the quiet artistry of the past. The slow, deliberate pace of the era extended even to personal development. There was no emphasis on rapid self-improvement, no frantic pursuit of new skills or constant reinvention. Instead, growth was an organic process, a quiet deepening of character, a gradual refinement of virtues. Philippa observed how Winifred's calm demeanor, her quiet strength, her unwavering commitment to her duties were not learned through quick courses or self-help books, but through years of steady application and ingrained societal conditioning. It was a different path to wisdom, one that valued endurance and quiet fortitude over fleeting trends or dramatic transformations. As the London fog sometimes crept in, muffling the sounds of the city and cloaking Cranbrook Hall in a soft gray. Embrace, Philippa found an unexpected comfort in its stillness. The reduced visibility, the dampened sounds, seemed to encourage an even deeper inward turn, a greater appreciation for the warmth and light within the house. The gaslights glowed with an enhanced intimacy, casting softer shadows. The crackle of the fire in the grate became more pronounced, a comforting companion against the damp chill. These moments of quiet isolation, brought about by the weather, became opportunities for intensified reflection, for a deeper descent into the quietude of the Victorian mind. The meals themselves, beyond breakfast and tea, were a study in structured sustenance. Luncheon, a lighter affair, often consisted of cold meats, salads, and perhaps a simple pudding. Dinner, the main meal of the day, was a more formal event, even when only the family was present. Multiple courses, served with precision by the footman, unfolded over a leisurely hour or more. The conversation remained polite, topics carefully navigated. Philippa noted the richness of the ingredients, the depth of flavor in dishes prepared without modern preservatives or shortcuts. It was food meant to sustain, to fortify, to be savored rather than rushed. The entire experience was a testament to the era's appreciation for deliberate indulgence, a quiet celebration of the day's end. The role of correspondence, beyond simply receiving letters, expanded into a quiet duty of its own. Winifred maintained a meticulous social calendar, recorded in the household ledger, which dictated not only visits received, but also visits to be made and, crucially, thank you notes to be penned. Philippa observed the careful composition of these notes, the elegant cursive, the precise expressions of gratitude or condolences. Each letter was a small work of art, a tangible connection in a world without instant messaging. It was a testament to the value placed on formal communication, on maintaining social ties through diligent, handwritten effort. This quiet, persistent art of letter writing underscored the deliberate pace of all interactions in 1860. The household staff, while largely invisible in their seamless movements, were a constant presence, a living backdrop to Winifred's life. Philippa began to recognize their subtle rhythms, the muffled sounds from the kitchen in the early morning, the quiet sweep of a broom in the hall, the precise footsteps of a maid ascending the stairs. Their lives, though separate, were intricately woven into the fabric of Cranbrook Hall, each individual a cog in the meticulously turning wheel of domesticity. Their quiet dedication, their deferential manners, and their unwavering efficiency contributed to the pervasive sense of calm and order that defined the household. The concept of health in 1860 was approached with a quiet fortitude. Minor ailments were treated with quiet remedies, often herbal, prepared in the household. There was no immediate rush to a doctor for every sniffle or ache. A sense of stoicism prevailed, a quiet acceptance of discomfort as a part of life. Philippa, from her modern perspective, found this starkly different from the instantaneous medical interventions and diagnostic tools she was accustomed to. It encouraged a deeper attunement to one's own body, a quiet resilience in the face of minor afflictions, and a reliance on the body's own gentle capacity for healing. The very air in Cranbrook Hall at night, after the gaslights were lowered to a soft glow and the household settled into slumber, held a unique stillness. The absence of electrical hums, of distant traffic noise, allowed for a profound quietude. Philippa felt the house breathe around her, a slow, gentle expansion and contraction. The sounds that did exist, the settling of timbers, the rustle of curtains and a gentle breeze, the distant hoot of an owl seemed amplified, becoming part of a nocturnal symphony that lulled the senses. It was a quietness that invited contemplation, a space where the modern consciousness could truly merge with the historical reality, undisturbed by the clamor of a different age. This quiet journey into the past, this tranquil contemplation of how a modern consciousness might reconcile with the intricate tapestry of Victorian life, continued to unfold with a soothing rhythm. The quiet resilience and adaptation required to exist in a world so vastly different from her own was no longer a conscious effort, but an ingrained response, a testament to the profound and gentle assimilation that had taken place. Philippa's essence, now deeply intertwined with Winifred's, found a quiet, enduring peace in the structured reality of 1860, a world not sensationalized, but presented in its quiet, structured reality, ideal for a peaceful descent into rest. The gentle ebb and flow of daily life, the subtle beauty in routine, and the deep, pervasive sense of order continued to cradle Philippa's awareness, guiding her ever deeper into the tranquil currents of this bygone era, an era that had, in its own quiet way, become home. The ritual of morning itself in Cranbrook Hall began not with a jolt, but with a subtle shift in the quality of light. Before the first direct rays of sun touched the meticulously drawn curtains, a faint grayness would seep through the heavy drapes, signaling the approach of dawn. Philippa, stirring from a sleep that had grown increasingly undisturbed, would feel the cool crispness of the air against her skin, a distinct sensation in a world without central heating. Her maid, a young woman named Elodie, would arrive precisely at 7, her footsteps barely audible on the carpeted floor. A soft rap on the door, a deferential curtsy, and then the quiet rustle of Elodie drawing back the curtains, allowing the full morning light to filter into the room, revealing dust motes dancing in the gentle illumination. The morning ablutions were a measured process. A large porcelain basin and pitcher of water, heated by the kitchen staff and brought upstairs, stood ready. The water was not steaming hot, but pleasantly warm, a gentle comfort against the morning chill. Philippa, with Winifred's ingrained motions, would wash her face and hands, appreciating the clean, fresh scent of the lavender soap. Elodie would then assist with the elaborate ritual of dressing, beginning with the undergarments. The chemise, soft against the skin, followed by the drawers, then the layers of petticoats, each rustling with its own unique sound, and then the gored corset. It was not a sudden, sharp constriction, but a gradual molding, a firm embrace of the torso that reshaped the silhouette into the fashionable hourglass figure. Elodie, with practiced hands, would pull the laces at the back, slowly, evenly, allowing Philippa time to adjust her breath. There was a moment of subtle resistance, a quiet push against the diaphragm, and then a settling. Philippa's modern lungs initially protesting this. Compression had learned to adapt, finding a new rhythm of shallow, controlled breaths. It was a constant, gentle pressure, a physical reminder of the era's constraints, but also, paradoxically, a source of a curious sense of structure and support. It defined the posture, encouraged a graceful, upright bearing, and subtly dictated the range of movement. Walking, sitting, even breathing became a conscious, measured act, a silent performance of feminine propriety. The sensation was no longer one of discomfort, but of a quiet, ever-present embrace, a second skin of expectation. After the corset came the bustle, shaping the rear of the skirt, and then the chosen gown for the day. Each dress, meticulously crafted from wool, silk, or cotton, depending on the season and occasion, was a work of art in itself. Buttons, hooks, and intricate fastenings were all expertly handled by Elodie, who would then ensure every fold lay perfectly, every ruffle was in place. The final touches were the hair, usually pinned up in an intricate arrangement, and perhaps a simple brooch or a cameo. The entire process, from first light to fully dressed, was a quiet, unhurried symphony of motions, reflecting a deep respect for personal presentation and the meticulous demands of Victorian fashion. Breakfast in the dining room, a stately space, with dark wood paneling and a large mahogany table, was typically a quiet affair, especially when only Winifred and her immediate family were present. Philippa observed the unwritten rules. Conversation was subdued, polite, often revolving around the day's schedule or gentle inquiries about well-being. The food itself was hearty and substantial, often bacon, eggs, kippers, toast with marmalade, and strong black tea. There was no rush, no quick grabbing of a pastry on the way out the door. It was a time for quiet sustenance, a deliberate fueling for the day ahead, enjoyed in the comforting glow of gaslight even in the morning, especially during the darker months and the muted clinking of silverware against fine china. The household, ledger resting on a polished writing desk in a small, well-lit study, was more than a mere accounting book. It was a testament to Winifred's quiet authority and meticulous organization. Philippa, guided by Winifred's knowledge, would spend a portion of her mornings poring over its pages. Each entry was a tiny narrative: paid Mr. Davies, the greengrocer, for fresh produce, 2 South 6D, order for new linens from Messrs. Harding and Son, provision for dinner party on Tuesday, 2 fowls, salmon, a leg of mutton. The figures were precise, the handwriting elegant and uniform. It reflected not just expenditures, but also inventories of silver, linen, and china, a record of the household's assets. It also contained a meticulously kept social calendar, noting engagements, visits to be made, and calls to be received. Managing this ledger was a profound exercise in foresight and precision, ensuring the smooth operation of Cranbrook Hall, preventing waste, and maintaining the family's reputation for order and prosperity. It was a demanding, yet deeply satisfying, intellectual exercise within the confines of her domestic sphere. Social calls, those delicate, intricate ballets of Victorian society, unfolded with a predictable grace. A carriage would be ordered from the stables, the coachman, Mr. Bromley, a silent, steady presence on the box. Philippa, accompanied by Winifred's quiet companion, Miss Eleanor Vance, would embark on a series of visits. Each call had its unspoken duration. A formal visit might last precisely 20 minutes, no more, no less. The conversation was an art form, carefully skirting controversial topics, focusing instead on polite inquiries about health, discussions of recent balls or concerts, and perhaps gentle gossip, always delivered with an air of refined discretion. The drawing room, with its plush velvet furniture and ornate gaslight fixtures, was the usual setting. Tea or sherry might be offered, accompanied by small biscuits. Every gesture, from the demure curtsy upon entering to the elegant dip of the head upon departure, was imbued with meaning. Philippa observed the subtle cues, the fleeting glances, the carefully chosen silences, understanding that this was how reputation was built and maintained, how alliances were forged, and how the intricate web of society was upheld. There was a profound quietude in these interactions, an absence of the boisterous enthusiasm of her modern world, replaced by a subtle, understated elegance. The public spaces of London, accessed from Regent's Walk, were not arenas for personal expression, but for public observation. A promenade through Hyde Park was a visual symphony of Victorian life. Philippa noticed the meticulous distinctions in attire, signaling class and status. The elaborate carriages of the gentry, polished to a high sheen, contrasted with the more modest, handsome cabs and the ubiquitous horse-drawn omnibuses. The air carried the mixed scents of horse manure, coal, smoke, and damp earth, a gritty reality underlying the polished surface. Women would walk with their companions, their parasols twirling gently against the sun, their gazes carefully directed, acknowledging only those they knew or wished to acknowledge. Children, often in matching outfits, were supervised by stern-faced nannies, their play structured and contained. The quiet murmurs of conversation, the distant cries of street vendors, the rhythmic clopping of hooves, all contributed to a pervasive hum of urban life that was both vibrant and deeply ordered. It was a world on display, a living theater of social codes, where even the seemingly casual stroll was a performance for the discerning public eye. The domestic staff formed the unseen, yet ever-present skeleton of Cranbrook Hall. Philippa, with Winifred's eyes, began to appreciate the precise hierarchy and the seamless, quiet efficiency with which they operated. There was Mr. Abernathy, the butler, a stoic and imposing figure who oversaw the footmen, ensured the silver was gleaming, and managed the wine cellar with quiet authority. Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, a woman of formidable competence, directed the maids, laundresses, and kitchen staff, her quiet presence ensuring every corner of the house was spotless, every linen fresh, every schedule adhered to. The maids, often young women from the countryside, moved through the house with soft steps, their quiet whispers barely breaking the silence. The cook, a robust woman named Mrs. Davies, presided over the bustling kitchens, the sounds of chopping and sizzling often muffled by thick doors. Their lives, though separate from the families, were inextricably linked, a silent ecosystem of duty and dependence. Philippa observed their quiet dedication, their deferential manners, and the profound unspoken understanding that bound them to the household. There was a dignity in their work, a quiet pride in contributing to the seamless order of Cranbrook Hall. Leisure and entertainment for a Victorian woman were not about individualistic pursuits, but often revolved around shared activities within the domestic sphere. Philippa would find Winifred engaged in delicate needlework, creating intricate patterns on lace or embroidery, a quiet, meditative task that filled the long afternoons. Reading was a cherished pastime, the pages of a novel by George Eliot or a volume of Tennyson's poetry turned slowly, deliberately, in the soft glow of gaslight. Music, particularly piano playing, was a fundamental accomplishment, and Winifred would often spend an hour at the drawing room piano, her fingers tracing familiar melodies, the gentle notes filling the quiet house. Card games, such as whist or cribbage, were played in the evenings with close family or invited guests, accompanied by polite conversation and the quiet clinking of glasses. There was no loud entertainment, no quick-paced diversions. Instead, leisure was a quiet cultivation of the mind and spirit, a gentle unfolding of creativity and social connection, always within the bounds of propriety and moderation. The art of correspondence for Winifred was far more than simply putting thoughts on paper. It was a vital social duty and a cornerstone of maintaining connections. Philippa observed the ritual, the selection of fine cream-colored paper, the precise uncorking of the inkwell, the careful dip of the steel-nibbed pen. Winifred's cursive was elegant, flowing across the page with an almost artistic flourish. Every sentence was carefully composed, every sentiment precisely articulated. Thank you notes for social calls, condolences for bereavements, congratulations. For engagements or births, each required a specific tone, a particular turn of phrase. The waiting for a reply, sometimes weeks or even months, instilled a profound patience. Each letter, once sealed with wax and embossed with Winifred's personal seal, was a tangible piece of connection, a durable link in a world without instantaneous communication. It was a quiet, persistent act of maintaining the intricate web of social relationships, a testament to the value placed on formal communication and sustained effort. The meals at Cranbrook Hall were not just about nourishment. They were structured events, each with its own ritual and significance. Luncheon, a lighter midday meal, might consist of cold meats from the previous evening's dinner, a fresh salad from the kitchen, garden, and perhaps a simple fruit tart. It was often a less formal affair than dinner, but still observed with quiet decorum. Dinner, the main event, was a grander production. Multiple courses would be served with precise timing by the footman. A consomme to start, followed by a fish course, then a substantial roast, perhaps beef or lamb, accompanied by an array of seasonal vegetables. A game course might follow, then a delicate pudding or an elaborate trifle. Fine wines would be poured from decanters, and the conversation, though polite, could sometimes delve into more substantial topics of politics or literature, especially if gentlemen guests were present. Philippa noticed the absence of culinary shortcuts, the richness of flavors that spoke of long simmering and fresh quality ingredients. The entire experience was a testament to the era's appreciation for deliberate indulgence, a quiet celebration of the day's end, designed to be savored and enjoyed without haste. The accomplishments of a Victorian lady, once a source of quiet derision for Philippa's modern mind, had revealed themselves as skills that fostered a particular kind of intellectual and artistic engagement. Beyond the piano, there was sketching, often of landscapes or botanical subjects, which encouraged keen observation and a delicate hand. Learning French or Italian, while not for practical conversation, opened up worlds of literature and opera. The study of history, usually focused on ancient civilizations or the English monarchy, provided a framework for understanding one's place in the world. These pursuits were not about professional advancement or challenging societal norms, but about cultivating a refined mind and a graceful presence, qualities deemed essential for a woman of her standing. Philippa saw that within the confines of these expectations, there was genuine intellectual curiosity and a quiet joy in mastering these skills. They provided a structured outlet for creative energy and a means of contributing to the cultural richness of the household. The physical sensation of the gored corset, initially a distinct imposition, had faded into a continuous background hum, like the subtle thrum of a distant clock. Philippa no longer actively thought about its presence, yet its influence was omnipresent. It shaped her posture, ensuring an elegant, upright carriage. It dictated the measured pace of her steps, preventing any unseemly haste. It even subtly influenced her breathing, a shallow, controlled intake of air that became second nature. This constant, gentle pressure was a quiet, pervasive reminder of the societal expectations that bound Winifred. It was a physical manifestation of the invisible chains of propriety, yet Philippa now found a curious sense of liberation within its confines. It removed the need for conscious self-posturing. The corset did the work for her. It was a tangible symbol of a world where external structure brought internal peace, where limits defined a space for graceful existence. The quiet, almost imperceptible nature of the era's advancements was another subtle observation for Philippa. No sudden technological leaps, no dramatic inventions reshaping daily life overnight. Change was incremental, measured, and often absorbed without fanfare. Gaslight, still a relative novelty in many parts of the world, was a ubiquitous comfort in Cranbrook Hall, its soft hiss and warm glow a world away from the flickering candles of previous generations, yet light years from the stark brilliance of electric bulbs. Travel by carriage, though slow, was a marvel of engineering for its time, connecting London's sprawling districts with relative ease, a profound difference from walking or riding. Communication, though reliant on handwritten letters and a postal service, was efficient and reliable, allowing for the maintenance of social networks across distances. Philippa understood that while her modern world raced towards the future, 1860 inhabited a present that was deeply engaged with its own subtle forms of progress, celebrating improvements without the clamor for constant novelty. The delicate balance of reputation, a constant, quiet concern, permeated every aspect of Winifred's life. A misplaced word, an unchaperoned outing, a slight impropriety in dress. Any of these could ripple through society, causing whispers and damaging a family's standing. Philippa observed the meticulous care Winifred took to ensure her behavior was always beyond reproach. It was a silent, ongoing performance, not out of fear, but out of a profound understanding of social cohesion. Reputation was the currency of trust, the bedrock of one's place in society. It was the collective agreement that held the fabric of the community together. This constant awareness, initially a source of quiet anxiety for Philippa, had transformed into a deep respect for the subtle power of social bonds and the quiet responsibility of maintaining them. Health in 1860 was approached with a stoicism that contrasted sharply with Philippa's modern sensibilities. A persistent cough, a headache, or mild fever was not cause for immediate alarm or a trip to the physician. Instead, quiet home remedies were employed: a soothing herbal tea brewed by the cook, a mustard plaster for a chest ailment, a long rest in a quiet, darkened room. The body was seen as having an innate capacity for healing, and interventions were often reserved for more severe afflictions. Philippa noticed the absence of diagnostic tools, the reliance on observation and folk wisdom. This fostered a deeper attunement to one's own physical state, a quiet resilience in the face of minor discomforts, and a profound acceptance of the body's gentle rhythms of wellness and illness. It was a less anxious relationship with one's health, marked by quiet fortitude rather than frantic pursuit of cure. The unique stillness of Cranbrook Hall at night, after the household had settled into slumber, became a particular solace for Philippa. The gaslights were lowered to a soft, flickering glow, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The absence of the pervasive hum of electricity, of distant traffic noise, or the glow of digital screens allowed for a profound quietude. Philippa felt the house around her, a slow, gentle expansion and contraction of timbers, the faint rustle of curtains stirred by a gentle breeze, the distant hoot of an owl from the city park. The silence was not empty, but rich with the subtle sounds of an old house breathing, a nocturnal symphony that lulled the senses into a deep, peaceful calm. It was in these moments of profound stillness that Philippa's modern consciousness and Winifred's historical existence merged most completely, a quiet, undisturbed space where reflection flowed freely, and the past became the profound and comforting present. This quiet journey into the past, this tranquil contemplation of how a modern consciousness might reconcile with the intricate tapestry of Victorian life, had truly found its gentle conclusion. Philippa's essence, now deeply intertwined with Winifred's, had found a quiet, enduring peace in the structured reality of 1860. It was a world not sensationalized, but presented in its quiet, structured reality, ideal for a peaceful descent into rest. There were no more questions, no more comparisons, no more longing for a different time. Only the soft glow of gaslight, the scent of lavender, and the quiet, steady rhythm of a life profoundly lived, now and forever. In the peaceful embrace of the past, the very air in Cranbrook Hall seemed to settle deeper around Philippa, each breath drawing in the quiet essence of 1860, not as a visitor, but as one who belonged. The gentle hum of the house, a symphony of its subtle movements, and the distant, muffled sounds of the city had become the intimate soundtrack of her existence. The sun, a soft painter of light, would begin its ascent, casting a faint pearlescent glow through the heavy drapes of Winifred's bedchamber, announcing the quiet commencement of another day. Before the first direct ray touched the floorboards, a barely perceptible shift in the quality of the stillness would rouse Philippa from a sleep that had grown increasingly profound and dreamless. The cool, crisp air, a tangible presence, and the absence of modern climate control would brush against her skin, a gentle invitation to wakefulness. Precisely at 7, Elodie, the young housemaid, would arrive. Her footsteps, muffled by the thick carpet, were almost unheard, a testament to her training and the quiet efficiency expected of the staff. A soft, deferential rap on the door, a brief, demure curtsy, and then the quiet rustle of fabric as Elodie drew back the heavy velvet curtains, allowing the full morning light to filter into the room. The dust motes, caught in the gentle illumination, danced in lazy spirals, silent. Particles of time suspended in the soft glow. The morning ablutions were a measured, unhurried ritual. A large porcelain basin, pristine white, sat upon a washstand, a matching pitcher filled with water standing beside it. The water, heated by the kitchen staff and carried upstairs by a housemaid, was not steaming hot, but pleasantly warm, a gentle comfort against the lingering chill of the early hour. Philippa, guided by Winifred's ingrained motions, would wash her face and hands with a bar of finely milled lavender soap, appreciating its clean, subtle scent. The sensation of the cool water, followed by the soft, absorbent linen towel, was a small, quiet pleasure, a tangible connection to the day beginning. Then came the elaborate ritual of dressing, an intricate performance that underscored the structured nature of Victorian femininity. Elodie, with practiced hands, would assist Philippa, beginning with the delicate undergarments. First, the chemise, a soft, breathable cotton shift, was eased over her head, its light fabric a gentle caress against the skin. Then the drawers, simple and functional, followed by a series of petticoats, each layer fashioned from starched cotton or silk, rustled with its own unique sound, a soft whisper that built into a gentle symphony as the layers accumulated. The sensation of the fabrics, cool and crisp, then soft and yielding, created a subtle, comforting weight. And then, the gored corset. It was not an abrupt, painful imposition, but a gradual, deliberate molding of the feminine silhouette. Elodie, her fingers nimble and accustomed, would present the intricate garment. Philippa, drawing in a measured breath, would feel the firm yet flexible whalebone ribs settle against her torso. Elodie would then begin to pull the laces at the back, slowly, evenly, allowing Philippa time to adjust her breath, to find a new rhythm. There was a moment of subtle resistance, a quiet push against the diaphragm, and then a profound settling. Philippa's modern lungs, initially protesting this compression, had long since learned to adapt, finding a new, shallower, and more controlled pattern of breathing. It was a constant, gentle pressure, a pervasive embrace that reshaped her form into the fashionable hourglass figure. This continuous physical presence was a quiet, omnipresent reminder of the era's constraints. Yet, paradoxically, Philippa had discovered within it a curious sense of structure and support. The corset defined her posture, encouraging a graceful, upright bearing, subtly dictating the range of her movements. Walking, sitting, even the very act of breathing, became a conscious, measured performance, a silent embodiment of feminine propriety. The sensation was no longer one of discomfort, but of a quiet, ever-present embrace, a second skin of expectation, allowing her to move with an understated elegance. After the corset came the bustle, a padded structure designed to shape the rear of the skirt, followed by the voluminous skirts themselves. Finally, the chosen gown for the day. Each dress, meticulously crafted from wool, silk, or a fine cotton, depending on the season and the day's planned engagements, was a work of art in itself. Buttons, hooks, and intricate fastenings, often numbering in the dozens, were all expertly handled by Elodie, who would then ensure every fold lay perfectly, every ruffle was in its precise place. The final touches were the hair, usually pinned up in an intricate arrangement of loops and braids, and perhaps a simple brooch or a delicate cameo chosen to complement the dress. The entire process, from the first hint of dawn to being fully dressed, was a quiet, unhurried symphony of motions reflecting a deep, ingrained respect for personal presentation and meticulous demands of Victorian fashion. It was a private preparation for a public role, a quiet ritual of transformation. Breakfast in the dining room, a stately space with dark wood paneling, a large mahogany table polished to a deep sheen, and heavy brocaded drapes, was typically a quiet affair. When only Winifred and her immediate family were present, the atmosphere was one of subdued decorum. Philippa observed the unwritten rules. Conversation was soft, polite, often revolving around the day's schedule, gentle inquiries about well-being, or perhaps a brief mention of the morning's headlines from the freshly delivered paper. The food itself was hearty and substantial, often crisp bacon, perfectly cooked eggs, smoked kippers, thick slices of toast accompanied by homemade marmalade, and strong black tea served in delicate porcelain cups. There was no rush, no hurried grabbing of a pastry on the way out the door. It was a time for quiet sustenance, a deliberate fueling for the long hours ahead, enjoyed in a comforting glow of gaslight even in the morning, especially during the darker months of winter, and the muted clinking of silverware against the fine china. Each bite was savored, each sip a quiet indulgence. The household ledger, resting on a polished writing desk in a small, well-lit study, was far more than a mere accounting book. It was a testament to Winifred's quiet authority and meticulous organization, a chronicle of the household's intricate economy. Philippa, guided by Winifred's ingrained knowledge, would spend a significant portion of her mornings poring over its pages. Each entry was a tiny narrative, meticulously penned in Winifred's elegant, uniform handwriting. Paid Mr. Davies, the greengrocer, for fresh produce. 2 South 6D. Order for new linens from Messrs. Harding and Son, fine Irish cambric. Provision for Tuesday's dinner party. 2 fowls, salmon from Billingsgate, a leg of mutton, and a brace of pheasant. The figures were precise, recorded with an unwavering attention to detail. It reflected not just expenditures, but also inventories of silver, linen, and china, a detailed record of the household's valuable assets. Crucially, it also contained a meticulously kept social calendar, noting engagements, visits to be made, and calls to be received, ensuring no social obligation was ever overlooked. Managing this ledger was a profound exercise in foresight, precision, and economic acumen, ensuring the smooth, efficient operation of Cranbrook Hall, preventing waste, and maintaining the family's reputation for order, prosperity, and punctuality. It was a demanding, yet deeply satisfying, intellectual exercise within the carefully defined confines of her domestic sphere, a silent assertion of competence. Social calls, those delicate, intricate ballets of Victorian society, unfolded with a predictable, almost comforting grace. A carriage would be ordered from the stables, the coachman, Mr. Bromley, a silent, steady presence on the box, his gloved hands firm on the reins. Philippa, accompanied by Winifred's quiet companion, Miss Eleanor Vance, a woman of demure manners and an encyclopedic knowledge of social decorum, would embark on a series of visits. Each call had its unspoken duration, a precise, unwritten rule. A formal visit might last precisely 20 minutes, no more, no less, a silent agreement observed by all. The conversation within the drawing room, with its plush velvet furniture, ornate gaslight fixtures, and heavy tasseled drapes, was an art form. It carefully skirted controversial topics, focusing instead on polite inquiries about health, discussions of recent balls or concerts, and perhaps gentle, discreet gossip, always delivered with an air of refined discretion. Tea or sherry might be offered, accompanied by small, delicate biscuits served on gleaming silver trays. Every gesture, from the demure curtsy upon entering to the elegant dip of the head upon departure, was imbued with subtle meaning, a silent language understood by all participants. Philippa observed the subtle cues, the fleeting glances, the carefully chosen silences, understanding that this was how reputation was built and maintained, how alliances were forged, and how the intricate web of society was upheld. There was a profound quietude in these interactions, an absence of the boisterous enthusiasm of her modern world, replaced by a subtle, understated elegance that spoke volumes without a single raised voice. The public spaces of London, accessed from Regent's Walk, were not arenas for personal expression, but for public observation and the quiet affirmation of social standing. A promenade through Hyde Park was a visual symphony of Victorian life, a living tableau of propriety and status. Philippa noticed the meticulous distinctions in attire, signaling class and station. The elaborate carriages of the gentry, polished to a high sheen, their crests emblazoned on the doors, contrasted sharply with the more modest hansom cabs and the ubiquitous horse-drawn omnibuses, each contributing to the rhythmic thrum of the city. The air carried the mixed scents of horse manure, coal smoke, and damp earth after a light rain, a gritty reality underlying the polished surface of society. Women would walk with their companions, their parasols twirling gently against the occasional sunbeam, their gazes carefully directed, acknowledging only those they knew or wished to acknowledge with subtle nods and demure smiles. Children, often in matching outfits, were supervised by stern-faced nannies, their play structured and contained within designated areas. The quiet murmurs of conversation, the distant cries of street vendors hawking their wares, fresh lavender or watercress, the rhythmic clopping of hooves all contributed to a pervasive hum of urban life that was both vibrant and deeply ordered. It was a world on display, a living theater of social codes, where even the seemingly casual stroll was a performance for the discerning public eye, a quiet reaffirmation of one's place within the societal structure. The domestic staff formed the unseen yet ever-present skeleton of Cranbrook Hall, a meticulously organized ecosystem of duty and dependence. Philippa, with Winifred's eyes, began to appreciate the precise hierarchy and the seamless, quiet efficiency with which they operated. There was Mr. Abernathy, the butler, a stoic and imposing figure, whose quiet authority extended over the footmen, ensuring the silver was gleaming, the decanters filled, and the wine cellar managed with impeccable precision. Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, a woman of formidable competence, directed the maids, laundresses, and kitchen staff, her quiet presence ensuring every corner of the house was spotless, every linen fresh, every schedule adhered to with military precision. The maids, often young women from the countryside, moved through the house with soft steps, their quiet whispers barely breaking the pervasive silence of the public rooms. The cook, a robust woman named Mrs. Davies, presided over the bustling kitchens, the sounds of chopping, sizzling, and the clatter of pots and pans, often muffled by thick doors, emanating a comforting warmth and the rich aroma of roasting meats and simmering broths. Their lives, though distinct from the families, were inextricably linked, a silent symbiotic relationship. Philippa observed their quiet dedication, their deferential manners, and the profound unspoken understanding that bound them to the household. There was a dignity in their work, a quiet pride in contributing to the seamless order and comfort of Cranbrook Hall, a system that ran with the precision of a finely tuned clock. Leisure and entertainment for a Victorian woman were not about individualistic pursuits or boisterous revelry, but often revolved around shared, quiet activities within the domestic sphere. Philippa would often find Winifred engaged in delicate needlework, her slender fingers creating intricate patterns on lace or embroidery. It was a quiet, meditative task that filled the long afternoons. the rhythmic pull of the thread through fabric a soothing counterpoint to her thoughts. Reading was a cherished pastime. The pages of a novel by George Eliot or volume of Tennyson's poetry turned slowly, deliberately, in the soft, intimate glow of gaslight. The stories unfolded with a measured pace, mirroring the life around her, inviting deep contemplation rather than hurried consumption. Music, particularly piano playing, was a fundamental accomplishment for any lady of standing, and Winifred would often spend an hour at the drawing room piano, her fingers tracing familiar melodies, the gentle, resonant notes filling the quiet house with a soothing harmony. Card games, such as whist or cribbage, were played in the evenings with close family or invited guests, accompanied by polite conversation and the quiet clinking of glasses. There was no loud entertainment, no quick-paced diversions, no reliance on external stimulation. Instead, leisure was a quiet cultivation of the mind and spirit, a gentle unfolding of creativity and social connection, always within the bounds of propriety and moderation, fostering a profound inner tranquility. The art of correspondence for Winifred was far more than simply putting thoughts on paper. It was a vital social duty, a cornerstone of maintaining connections, and a profound form of self-expression. Philippa observed the ritual, the careful selection of fine, cream-colored paper, its surface smooth and inviting, the precise uncorking of the crystal inkwell, its dark liquid shimmering, and the careful dip of the steel-nibbed pen. Winifred's cursive was elegant, flowing across the page with an almost artistic flourish, each letter perfectly formed, each word a deliberate choice. Every sentence was carefully composed, every sentiment precisely articulated, whether it was a thank you note for a delightful social call, heartfelt condolences for a bereavement, or warm congratulations for an engagement or a new birth. Each required a specific tone, a particular turn of phrase, reflecting the nuances of Victorian etiquette. The waiting for a reply, sometimes weeks or even months, depending on the distance, instilled a profound patience, a quiet anticipation. Each letter, once sealed with warm wax and embossed with Winifred's personal seal, a delicate bird motif, was a tangible piece of connection, a durable link in a world without instantaneous communication. It was a quiet, persistent act of maintaining the intricate web of social relationships, a testament to the value placed on formal communication and sustained effort, a beautiful, unhurried dance of words across miles. The meals at Cranbrook Hall were not just about nourishment. They were structured events, each with its own ritual and significance, reflecting the era's appreciation for order and sustained indulgence. Luncheon, a lighter midday meal, might consist of cold meats from the previous evening's dinner, perhaps a sliced roast beef or ham, accompanied by a fresh salad from the kitchen garden, its leaves crisp and green. A simple fruit tart or a light custard might follow, served with quiet efficiency. It was often a less formal affair than dinner, but still observed with quiet decorum, a moment of respite before the afternoon's duties. Dinner, the main event of the day, was a grander production, even when only the family was present. Multiple courses would be served with precise timing by the footman, moving with seamless grace around the large dining table. A delicate consomme to start, followed by a fish course, perhaps poached salmon with a light butter sauce. Then came the substantial roast, perhaps a perfectly carved leg of lamb or a succulent beef joint, accompanied by an array of seasonal vegetables, carefully steamed or roasted. A game course might follow, then a delicate pudding or an elaborate trifle. Its layers of sponge cake, fruit, and cream a visual delight. Fine wines would be poured from crystal decanters, their colors catching the gaslight. The conversation, though polite, could sometimes delve into more substantial topics of politics or literature. especially if gentlemen guests were present, adding a quiet intellectual dimension. Philippa noticed the absence of culinary shortcuts, the richness of flavors that spoke of long simmering, slow roasting, and the absolute freshness of quality ingredients meticulously sourced. The entire experience was a testament to the era's appreciation for deliberate indulgence, a quiet celebration of the day's end, designed to be savored and enjoyed without haste, a quiet anchoring point in the day's rhythm. The accomplishments of a Victorian lady, once a source of quiet derision for Philippa's modern mind, had revealed themselves as skills that fostered a particular kind of intellectual and artistic engagement, often overlooked in the clamor for professional achievement. Beyond the piano, there was sketching, often of landscapes seen from a carriage window or botanical subjects found in the garden, which encouraged keen observation, a delicate hand, and a profound appreciation for nature's intricate beauty. Learning French or Italian, while not primarily for practical conversation, opened up worlds of classical literature, opera librettos, and foreign culture, quietly broadening one's intellectual horizons. The study of history usually focused on ancient civilizations, the lives of great figures, or the English monarchy, provided a framework for understanding one's place in the grand sweep of human events, fostering a quiet sense of continuity and tradition. These pursuits were not about professional advancement or challenging societal norms, but about cultivating a refined mind, a graceful presence, and a well-rounded character, qualities deemed essential for a woman of her standing. Philippa saw that, within the confines of these expectations, there was genuine intellectual curiosity and a quiet joy in mastering these skills. They provided a structured outlet for creative energy and a means of contributing to the cultural richness and gentle harmony of the household, a silent tapestry woven with learning and artistry. The physical sensation of the gored corset, initially a distinct imposition, had faded into a continuous background hum, like the subtle thrum of a distant grandfather clock marking the slow passage of time. Philippa no longer actively thought about its presence, yet its influence was omnipresent, an unspoken choreographer of her movements. It shaped her posture, ensuring an elegant, upright carriage, shoulders gently back, head held high. It dictated the measured pace of her steps, preventing any unseemly haste, encouraging a graceful, gliding walk. It even subtly influenced her breathing, a shallow, controlled intake of air that became second nature, an automatic adaptation. This constant, gentle pressure was a quiet, pervasive reminder of the societal expectations that bound Winifred, a physical manifestation of the invisible chains of propriety. Yet, Philippa now found a curious sense of liberation within its confines. It removed the need for conscious self-posturing. The corset did the work for her, ensuring she always presented herself with the expected decorum. It was a tangible symbol of a world where external structure brought internal peace, where limits defined a clear space for graceful existence, a quiet harmony between body and societal expectation. The quiet, almost imperceptible nature of the era's advancements was another subtle observation for Philippa, a stark contrast to the relentless pace of innovation in her own time. No sudden technological leaps, no dramatic inventions reshaping daily life overnight with jarring speed. Change was incremental, measured, and often absorbed without fanfare, becoming simply the way things were. Gaslight, still a relative novelty in many parts of the world, was a ubiquitous comfort in Cranbrook Hall, its soft hiss and warm glow a world away from the flickering candles of previous generations. Yet light years from the stark brilliance of electric bulbs she remembered. Travel by carriage, though slow by modern standards, was a marvel of engineering for its time, connecting London's sprawling districts with relative ease, a profound difference from walking or riding horseback. Communication, though, reliant on handwritten letters and a robust postal service, was efficient and reliable, allowing for the maintenance of social networks across distances that once seemed insurmountable. Philippa understood that while her modern world raced towards the future with increasing velocity, 1860 inhabited a present that was deeply engaged with its own subtle forms of progress, celebrating improvements without the clamor for constant novelty or the anxiety of obsolescence. It was a time of quiet evolution, not revolution. The delicate balance of reputation, a constant, quiet concern, permeated every aspect of Winifred's life, like a finely spun thread woven through every social interaction. A misplaced word, an unchaperoned outing, a slight impropriety in dress, or even an ill-considered facial expression, any of these could ripple through society, causing whispers and potentially damaging a family's standing irrevocably. Philippa observed the meticulous care Winifred took to ensure her behavior was always beyond reproach, not out of fear, but out of a profound, internalized understanding of social cohesion. Reputation was the currency of trust, the bedrock of one's place in society, and the silent agreement that held the fabric of the community together. This constant awareness, initially a source of quiet anxiety for Philippa, had transformed into a deep respect for the subtle power of social bonds and the quiet responsibility of maintaining them. It was a shared commitment to a collective order, a quiet sacrifice of individual caprice for the greater good of community harmony. Health, in 1860, was approached with a stoicism that contrasted sharply with Philippa's modern sensibilities, a quiet fortitude that accepted discomfort as an inevitable part of existence. A persistent cough, a dull headache, or a mild fever was not cause for immediate alarm or a frantic trip to the physician. Instead, quiet home remedies were employed, a soothing herbal tea brewed by the cook from dried chamomile or peppermint, a warming mustard plaster applied for a chest ailment, or simply a long, uninterrupted rest in a quiet, darkened room. The body was seen as having an innate capacity for healing, and medical interventions were often reserved for more severe afflictions. Philippa noticed the absence of diagnostic tools, the reliance on observation, family history, and folk wisdom, passed down through generations. This fostered a deeper attunement to one's own physical state, a quiet resilience in the face of minor discomforts, and a profound acceptance of the body's gentle rhythms of wellness and illness. It was a less anxious relationship with one's health, marked by quiet fortitude rather than frantic pursuit of cure, a quiet trust in nature's own processes. The unique stillness of Cranbrook Hall at night, after the household had settled into slumber, became a particular solace for Philippa, a profound embrace of tranquility. The gaslights were lowered to a soft, flickering glow, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls, transforming familiar objects into ethereal shapes. The absence of the pervasive hum of electricity, of distant traffic noise, or the artificial glow of digital screens allowed for a profound quietude that felt almost sacred. Philippa felt the house around her, a slow, gentle expansion and contraction of timbers settling, the faint rustle of curtains stirred by a gentle breeze through an open window, the distant hoot of an owl from the city park, a silent sentinel. In the night, the silence was not empty, but rich with the subtle sounds of an old house breathing, a nocturnal symphony that lulled the senses into a deep, peaceful calm. It was in these moments of profound stillness that Philippa's modern consciousness and Winifred's historical existence merged most completely. A quiet, undisturbed space where reflection flowed freely, and the past became the profound and comforting present. Here, the temporal chasm dissolved entirely, leaving only a singular, peaceful awareness. This quiet journey into the past, this tranquil contemplation of how a modern consciousness might reconcile with the intricate tapestry of Victorian life, had truly found its gentle conclusion. The quiet resilience and adaptation required to exist in a world so vastly different from her own was no longer a conscious effort but an ingrained response, a testament to the profound and gentle assimilation that had taken place. Philippa's essence, now deeply intertwined with Winifred's, had found a quiet, enduring peace in the structured reality of 1860. It was a world not sensationalized, but presented in its quiet, structured reality, ideal for a peaceful descent into rest. The gentle ebb and flow of daily life, the subtle beauty in routine, and the deep, pervasive sense of order continued to cradle Philippa's awareness, guiding her ever deeper into the tranquil currents of this bygone era, an era that had, in its own quiet way, become home. There were no more questions, no more comparisons, no more longing for a different time. Only the soft glow of gaslight, the faint scent of lavender and coal smoke, the quiet tick of a grandfather clock, and the steady rhythmic pulse of a life profoundly lived, now and forever, in the peaceful embrace of the past, the world outside. Cranbrook Hall continued its measured hum, and within its walls, a quiet, profound understanding settled, undisturbed, like dust motes dancing in the soft glow of gaslight. It was a tranquility that would endure, a permanent stillness that had found its perfect resting place within the heart of an age that was now, finally, her own. The seasonal shifts outside Cranbrook Hall offered another layer to this profound integration, marking the passage of time not by hurried appointments, but by nature's unhurried rhythm. Spring arrived with a gentle softening of the air, a subtle lightening of the morning sky. Philippa, through Winifred's senses, would detect the first faint scent of damp earth and nascent blossoms carried on a tender breeze through the open windows of the drawing room. The garden, meticulously tended by old Mr. Finch, the head gardener, began its quiet awakening. Winifred would spend tranquil hours strolling along the gravel paths, her gloved hand lightly touching the new buds on the rose bushes, observing the delicate unfurling of crocuses and daffodils. She would discuss the planting schedules with Mr. Finch, her voice soft, her questions precise, demonstrating a quiet expertise in the care of the hall's grounds. The sight of a tiny robin flitting between branches, its song a bright ephemeral counterpoint to the city's distant murmur, filled Philippa with a quiet, unexpected joy. Summer brought longer, languid days, the sun casting golden rectangles across the polished floors until late into the evening. The scent of honeysuckle and night-blooming jasmine would drift in through open windows, mingling with the ever-present aroma of beeswax and coal smoke. Afternoon teas were often taken on the small terrace overlooking the manicured lawns. The clinking of porcelain cups and the gentle hum of conversation punctuated by the distant drone of a bumblebee. Even the oppressive summer heat, which might have prompted a modern mind to seek air-conditioned solace, was met with a quiet adaptation, lighter fabrics, slower movements, and the judicious use of cool, refreshing beverages. Autumn was heralded by a crispness in the air, a distinct chill that brought a comforting scent of wood smoke from neighboring chimneys. The leaves on the plane trees lining Regent's Walk transformed into vibrant tapestries of russet and gold, their silent descent marking the quiet close of another season. Winifred would oversee the preparation of the house for winter, ensuring the fires were ready, the heavy drapes secured against drafts, and the larder stocked with preserves and root vegetables. The crackle of logs in the drawing room fireplace became a focal point for evening gatherings, casting a warm, dancing glow that invited introspection and quiet conversation. Winter settled with a hushed reverence, the streets often blanketed in a pristine layer of snow, muffling the city's sounds to an ethereal whisper. The short, dark days were illuminated by the steady glow of gaslights and the comforting warmth of coal fires, turning Cranbrook Hall into a sanctuary of light and warmth against the biting cold. Philippa learned to appreciate the quiet resilience required to live in harmony with the seasons, recognizing that each had its unique beauty and demands, fostering a deep, cyclical rhythm that transcended the frantic pace of her past life. Beyond the formal calls and domestic management, there was the quiet, profound engagement with the community through charitable works. These were not grand philanthropic gestures, but rather consistent, unostentatious acts of duty. Once a week, Winifred, accompanied by Miss Vance and Mr. Bromley in the carriage, would travel to the district of Whitechapel, a world away from the pristine order of Mayfair. Here, the air was thick with the smells of poverty, damp brick, unwashed humanity, and the pervasive tang of the Thames. Their destination was the East End Benevolent Asylum for destitute women and children, a stark gray building that offered meager solace to those in dire need. Philippa, initially struck by the raw, unvarnished suffering, found herself increasingly drawn into the quiet dignity with which Winifred approached this work. Winifred would speak with the matron, Sister Agnes, a woman of tireless spirit, discussing the needs of the residents, the scarcity of warm blankets, the constant demand for medicinal provisions. She would quietly distribute small packets of tea, sugar, or simple sewing materials, her touch gentle, her words soft and encouraging. She listened to the women's quiet stories of hardship, offering not grand solutions, but the steady presence of empathy and understanding. There were no dramatic pronouncements, no seeking of recognition. It was a quiet, almost invisible thread in the tapestry of her week, a profound sense of duty rooted in her deeply held Christian faith. Philippa realized this was not charity for show, but a genuine, heartfelt connection to the suffering of others, a quiet acknowledgement of shared humanity that transcended social divides. It grounded Winifred's privileged existence in a tangible reality, fostering a sense of purpose and quiet gratitude for her own circumstances. The pursuit of knowledge, while circumscribed by societal expectations, was nonetheless a rich and quiet endeavor. Beyond the drawing room piano and the sketching pad, Winifred maintained a small, well-stocked library within Cranbrook Hall. Its walls were lined with heavy, leather-bound volumes, their pages bearing the faint, sweet scent of aged paper and dried ink. Here, Philippa would spend late mornings before the social calls or the luncheon, perusing the spines, her fingers tracing the gold-leaf titles. There were histories of ancient Rome, detailed volumes on British flora, the complete works of Shakespeare, and theological treatises. Winifred did not engage in public intellectual discourse, but her quiet study provided a rich internal landscape. She would often read aloud from a new acquisition to Miss Vance in the evenings, her voice low and even, the words of a classical poet or contemporary essayist filling the quiet room. These were not debates or critical analyses in the modern sense, but rather a gentle absorption of ideas, a quiet expansion of the mind that served to enrich her inner world and her conversation. Philippa noted the absence of quick news cycles or instantaneous information. Knowledge was acquired slowly, deliberately savored and integrated into one's understanding of the world. This unhurried intellectual pursuit fostered a profound depth of thought, a quiet contemplation that allowed ideas to settle and ripen, rather than merely being consumed and discarded. The subtle comfort derived from the meticulous arrangement of her personal space was another quiet realization. Winifred's bedchamber, while spacious, was a sanctuary of ordered tranquility. Each item had its designated place, the silver-backed hairbrushes neatly arranged on the dressing table, the small collection of porcelain figurines displayed on a lace doily, the embroidered shawl folded precisely at the foot of the bed. This was not a rigid adherence to rules for their own sake, but an intuitive understanding that external order fostered internal peace. Philippa found a quiet pleasure in these small acts of tidiness, the rhythmic unfolding of linen, the gentle polishing of a wooden surface, the careful placement of a book. It was a form of meditation, a quiet engagement with her immediate surroundings that brought a sense of control and harmony in a world where larger forces often dictated one's path. The very act of preparing for the evening, drawing the heavy curtains against the encroaching twilight, arranging the decorative pillows on the chaise lounge, and ensuring the gaslight was adjusted to a soft, even glow became a quiet ritual of contentment, a silent affirmation of her place within the comforting confines of Cranbrook Hall. Even the occasional, minor household mishap, which in a modern context might provoke frustration, was met with a quiet, measured response. A chipped teacup, an uncooperative gas mantle, or a delayed delivery from a tradesman would be addressed with calm practicality. Winifred would quietly instruct Mrs. Higgins on the replacement of the teacup, or Mr. Abernathy on the need for the gas fitter to call. There were no raised voices, no dramatic sighs of exasperation. Instead, a quiet, almost imperceptible adjustment to the day's plans. A calm acceptance that minor imperfections were an inherent part of the intricate machinery of life. This quiet resilience in the face of small inconveniences taught Philippa the value of unflappability, the strength found in maintaining one's composure amidst the gentle ebb and flow of daily life. It was a lesson in quiet fortitude, a recognition that the true measure of grace lay not in the absence of challenges, but in the tranquil manner in which they were met. As the weeks and months turned, and the seasons cycled through Cranbrook Hall, Philippa's modern memories began to recede, not with a sudden erasure, but with a gentle, almost imperceptible fading, like old photographs left in the sun. The sharp edges of her past life softened, the vivid colors muted into a comforting sepia tone. The clamor of her former world, its relentless speed and demands, became a distant echo, a faint, almost dreamlike memory that no longer held emotional sway. Instead, Winifred's memories, her ingrained habits and profound understanding of 1860 became her own. Philippa no longer distinguished between the two, experiencing the world with a singular, tranquil consciousness that was entirely, profoundly Victorian. The quiet clop of hooves on cobblestones, the soft hiss of gaslight, the rustle of voluminous skirts, the precise rhythms of social calls, and the deep satisfaction of a meticulously managed household. These were not observations, but lived realities, deeply felt and understood from within. The concept of time itself had undergone a profound transformation. In her modern life, time was a resource to be managed, optimized, and often outrun. Here, time was an expansive, unhurried river, flowing with a measured grace. Each hour was a gift, each day an unfolding tapestry, woven with deliberation and care. There was no pressure to fill every moment with external stimulation, no urge to rush from one activity to the next. Instead, the quiet spaces between events, the moments of reflection by a sunlit window or beside a crackling fire, became cherished opportunities for internal peace. The anticipation of a letter, the slow progression of a growing plant in the garden, the gradual completion of a piece of needlework, all these cultivated a deep, abiding patience, a quiet trust in the natural pace of life. The quiet power of the social network, which initially seemed so rigid and restrictive, had revealed itself as a profound source of stability and connection. Beyond the formal visits, Philippa understood the subtle currents of support that flowed between families and friends. A quiet exchange of sympathy during a bereavement, a shared moment of joy over a new birth, a gentle inquiry about a distant relative. These were the threads that wove the fabric of community, offering a silent strength and a sense of belonging. Winifred's role was not just to uphold propriety, but to be a silent, reliable pillar within this intricate structure, offering comfort, counsel, and consistent presence. It was a world built on mutual reliance and quiet understanding, a profound antidote to the modern sense of isolated individualism. Even the contemplation of mortality, in an era where life was often shorter and less predictable, held a quiet stoic acceptance. Philippa observed the quiet dignity with which bereavements were met, the solemn rituals of mourning, the gentle support offered to the bereaved. There was an understanding that life was a delicate gift and death an inevitable, if sorrowful, part of its cycle. This was not a morbid preoccupation, but a quiet acknowledgement of the transient nature of existence, fostering a profound appreciation for each day, each quiet moment, each shared connection. It imbued daily life with a subtle depth, a quiet gratitude for the beauty and order that permeated her world. Cranbrook Hall, with its polished dark wood, its heavy drapes, its gentle gaslight, and its steady, rhythmic pulse of life, had ceased to be merely a house. It had become a living, breathing entity, an extension of Winifred herself. It was a sanctuary, a world unto itself, a testament to the enduring values of order, beauty, and quiet domesticity. Every corner held a memory. Every surface bore the patina of time. Every sound resonated with the echoes of lives lived within its walls. Philippa, now indistinguishable from Winifred, moved through its spaces with an innate understanding, a quiet comfort that bordered on reverence. The whispers of the house, the gentle creaks of its timbers, the subtle shifts of light throughout the day had become her deepest language. The profound peace that had begun to settle over Philippa's consciousness was now absolute. The dichotomy between the modern mind and the Victorian existence had dissolved completely, leaving only a singular, coherent sense of being. There was no longer a her observing Winifred. There was only Winifred, living fully and peacefully in the structured reality of 1860. The quiet resilience and adaptation, once conscious processes, were now the very fabric of her existence, as natural as breathing. The tapestry of Victorian life, once complex and restrictive, was now a comforting embrace, each thread a testament to order, grace, and enduring tradition. The world was no longer vast and overwhelming, but contained, predictable, and profoundly beautiful in its quiet. Unfolding. The last flicker of gaslight in her bedchamber, the soft hush of the heavy velvet curtains drawn against the quiet night, the gentle tick of the mantel clock in the hallway. These were the final soothing elements of her day, guiding her into a sleep that was not merely rest, but a continuation of this profound tranquility. Her consciousness, once adrift in time, had found its anchor, its permanent resting place. The journey into the past had reached its gentle, quiet destination. The world outside Cranbrook Hall continued its measured hum, but within its walls, a quiet, profound understanding settled, undisturbed, like dust motes dancing in the soft glow of gaslight. It was a tranquility that would endure, a permanent stillness that had found its perfect resting place within the heart of an age that was now, finally, truly her own. All thoughts settled, all comparisons ceased, all striving ended. Only the profound, quiet peace of a life lived in perfect harmony with its time remained, a gentle descent into profound and enduring rest. Like this story? Support quiet narratives by leaving a like and subscribing.